How does a new healthy behavior happen? BJ Fogg of Stanford has developed a chart that will show you graphically how it works. You can see him explain it in a little more detail on his website, bjfogg.com. Dr. Fogg says that activating or actualizing a new behavior happens when three things coalesce. You have the adequate motivation to do something, the ability to do something, and you have some sort of trigger. The trigger is the call to action. Take, for example, you meet someone for the first time. He sticks out his hand towards you, and you shake it. Why? Because a cue has been triggered, and you have the ability and the motivation. Same thing happens when the phone rings. We see who it is, and depending on who it is, we either choose to answer it or not. Triggers are very important, and can come in many different forms. On BJ Fogg's chart, the vertical axis is low to high motivation. Your 10-year-old daughter is highly motivated to go to Disneyland. You may not be quite as motivated. The horizontal axis represents your ability or access. Disneyland is close, so access is easy. It costs over $100 for one-day park hopper pass, so the ability to pay might not be as easy as the axis. The curved line that you see in the middle of the graph is the actualization line. If your motivation and ability are on the top of the right side of the line when the cue is triggered, you go to Disneyland. If the motivation is low and the ability is hard, it looks like your daughter is going to get a Disney princess doll rather than a trip to the Magic Kingdom. This is why Dr. Fogg recommends adopting simple habits that are easy to do. You don't need to be high on the motivation axis to actualize the habit. Usually, the actualization of healthy habits is a little more complicated than just one or two factors. Let's take the case of Wilma and Betty. They both work on campus here at UCI. Wilma is highly motivated to work out because she always feels better when she exercises regularly. She's also very competitive and wants to be as fit as possible. Her kids just left for college, and her surgeon husband doesn't get home until late on the weeknights, so after work she has the time to work out at the Arc on campus, which is the best gym in Orange County. Her desire to feel better and her competitive nature move Wilma up on that motivation axis, and her freedom from kids and wealthy husband reduce some of the barriers to her ability, so she is far into the actualization zone. Betty, on the other hand, doesn't like to work out so much, but her doctor told her that if she doesn't lose some body fat, she is at great risk of having a heart attack. Betty has low motivation to work out, but low motivation is better than no motivation. I talked to Betty, and she tells me about her barriers to the healthy behavior. She says that she doesn't have the money to join a gym, she needs to take care of her kids and doesn't have time to work out, she can't park close to the Arc, and she doesn't like to sweat. This is not easy for Betty. She is on the hard end of the ability axis. I tell her about the membership rates at the Arc, which is less expensive than the gym by her house, which isn't as nice. After talking to her, I found out that her husband is willing to share taking care of the kids, so that makes it a little easier for her. So we break through two barriers, and I find out that the biggest barrier is the parking. The other barriers are minor compared to parking. We work out the parking, and after that, she doesn't care much if she sweats. You can see that even if the barriers are removed, her motivation axis is still a little low. We'll probably get our healthy behavior only part of the time. So I try to raise her motivation level, which isn't as easy or reliable as overcoming ability barriers. We find out that she really wants to do is what it takes to live long enough to play with her grandchildren. So that raises her motivation level enough so that we're on the active side of the actualization line. Now, when Betty gets her trigger, which is driving by the Arc on her way home, she's likely to stop and make herself a little more fit. You too can assess your likelihood of adopting a new healthy behavior with this model. You can evaluate your motivation level and list your barriers to that better behavior. Remember that it's easier to overcome barriers to cross the actualization line than it is to rely on your motivation level. So it's best to try a behavior that doesn't take much motivation. Then you'll be more likely to make that a habit. Make that move today, and I'll see you on the other side of the actualization line.